This is why we are working in the garage. Today we're going to continue with the installs and upgrades to my Hobie Outback. Today we're going to look at installing the my fish finder, which is a Raymarine Element 7. It has side imaging, so I want to show you how the side imaging transducer will be installed on the Hobie Guardian plate. So the Hobie Guardian system is a retractable transducer shield, and when you flip your kayak over, you'll be faced with this plate. Now there's 3 screws that you have to undo to loosen this plate, which will then just open it up to this cavity below your kayak. Now, if you only had a standard transducer that had down imaging and standard sonar, you can actually install the transducer right inside, on the inside of this plate. Now, these you get fittings with the with your Hobie to actually install. It's made to fit any Lowrance transducers. If you don't have a Lowrance system and maybe a Garmin or the Raymarines and these things, it might be, there's some playing around with the different fittings. But then essentially you'll just put your transducer on the inside, the plate will be fitted back, and the transducer will then shoot straight through this plate, and it's very well protected. Now, if you have a side imaging transducer, it has to sit on the outside because it needs to shoot to the sides and be below your hull. So the Guardian Shield does come with a little nose protector, and ultimately your transducer, whichever brand is going to be, has to be mounted on the outside to sit like that. Now, the Lowrance ones actually attaches on the inside here through this hole, but for the Raymarine one, we have to actually change how we do that. What I suggest you do is you line it up, install the little nose protector for the transducer, and you're going to have to then place this transducer on the plate and make sure that you have the mounting screw visible, and then you're going to have to basically judge where you're going to have to cut this hole. That's about a 1-inch hole that I've made, and I had to carve in a little bit here for this sloped section, but essentially what it does, it fits in through nicely through the hole, and then of course then this cable will go up to your fish finder. So all I have to do now is attach this screw and some cable ties to actually really hold it on nice and tight. Now inside this cavity you will notice a rope. This rope attaches to your Guardian Shield, and what it enables you to do is when you pull the tab that's in the cockpit, it will essentially pull your transducer into your hull and protect it against anything that might be below your kayak, like rocks, or when you actually have to launch, or when you bring your kayak back in off the water. So when you first take off your Guardian Shield, it will have these 6 screws in it, which if you want to install the side imaging, you're going to actually have to loosen these, because then this inside plate, this plate here, when you attach this rope on the inside to this and you pull on it, then this whole inside plate will actually pull back up into the hole, and thereby protecting your transducer. So you've drilled the hole, the 1-inch hole, and the size so that basically you can get your cable and the front end of the cable through this hole, which is, you need to be able to push that through, feed the cable through so that it sits nice and flush on that. And then all I did, I had a little piece of old metal from something that was lying here in my garage, and I just put this plate on. I had two spacers. I put spacers in there just so that this transducer will fit nice and level, and I basically screwed into the mounting screw into the transducer, and this plate is then holding it there, and it's sitting nice and solid. Like I said, this is the little protection nose plate that comes with the Hobie system. What's nice about this is if there's any weeds coming from the front, it deflects it around, and it's not going to come in underneath and maybe grab on your transducer. So I would recommend putting that on. But that is it. All I'm going to do now is going to run some cable ties through here just to give it some extra security. There you have it. Basically, I've just run two cable ties. There was these slots already, just ran a cable tie through there. I punched two holes through the shield on that side. Just run another cable tie. I mean, even just with that one, and the tiner was already solid, but this thing is now not going to go anywhere. It is solidly mounted on this. I just like that with the extra security. So again, just to recap, this is your standard shield that comes with what it will look like when it comes. You will undo it. You will switch this little plate out with the provided nose protector for the transducer that sits on the outside, the side imaging transducer. And then in the plate here, you will just have to line up your transducer and drill a hole so you can fit your cable through. And then with the Element transducer, the front of it will sit here with a screw hole. I took a bit of a spacer and just a little metal bridging plate and tightened it down with this provided screw, and then ran two cable ties through it. As simple as that, and it's on there really solid. So now we'll put this back in here and complete the installation. So the finished installation on the bottom end of the kayak, you're going to take your transducer cable and you're going to feed it through the hole that's in the kayak. And once you get your transducer up, the Guardian Shield up to this point, we're now going to have to take this little rope that's on the inside, and which is the rope that when you pull the tab on the inside of the kayak will lift your transducer and attach it to this rope. So there's the plate. The rope is attached on the inside, plates back in place. And of course, if you were to pull on the inside, this will pop back in under tension. So what we're going to do now is reattach these for 3 screws and then flip the kayak over and complete the installation on the other side. So here in the top end, this is where we've pushed the transducer cable through. We'll remove this cover plate, and in here you'll see the cable that's coming from the transducer pull cable, that if you pull on this, it lifts the transducer up, and we've just attached it on the inside. Down there, we've attached it to the transducer. So that comes down the transducer. You just need to make sure when you reinstall this that this rope stays on this pulley wheel. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to take one of these through the hole plugs. We're going to open it up and we're going to run this cable now through this plug into the inside of the hole. It's going to have a rubber seal around it to make it watertight, and then this cable will feed through the hole to where we're going to put the fish finder. So when you remove this plug, this is what you're going to have. Before you feed this cable into your hole, it's very important to make sure that this rubber gasket that's at the bottom end, and which is going to fit back in there, actually goes, the plug goes through it. So you have to put this gasket in, and then you're just going to go on the inside of the hole and pull the whole cable through. So here we're pulling the cable through. On on the inside of the hole. Careful not to damage that little rubber seal, and that's essentially how your transducer cable is now going to come and enter your hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of these rubber plugs here and replace that with one that fits around this diameter cable. You'll provide it with various little plugs that fits around the cable and then fits through here, and we will then reinstall it and make it. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll show you the final product. So these are the solid plugs. These are the ones that gets provided with your kayak, and you have various types. You got ones that got 2 cables with different diameters. You got singles with larger ones. You're just going to have to pick the one that actually fits the best around the cable. So that plug will fit in like this, and your cable will come through there. And there your transducer cable is coming in from the bottom through the plug into your hole. So we're gonna put this cover plate back on, and then this install should be done right here. There you go, plate's back on, the cable's going into the hole. Maybe just for some added seal, put some green silicone around here. But now your transducer cable is inside the hole, and we will run it now to whichever side you want to put your fish finder. Now, your transducer cable is very long. You don't need all that length. We're not in the kayak. And so I rolled up most of it, cable tied and left myself enough to actually work it through to where I want to mount my fish finder. So on my kayak, I'm going to put the fish finder on this side, on the right hand side. And the Hobie Outbacks come with through the hole plugs on either side of the kayak. So what I'm going to do is remove this plug and feed this cable inside out through the hole, and again through one of these watertight seals. The other cable that's going to come through this plug at the same time is the power from the battery that has to run the fish finder. So I'm going to remove this plug now, and then jump over to also show you where I'm going to put my battery. Now, similar to the other plug, you're going to have a seal on the back end. Remember that your cables will have to feed through this when you reinstall it. And we need to make sure that this washer goes back over it. So that is the transducer cable, and then the remainder of the cables will just be stored in the hole. Raymarine Element's power cable. This is the one point that goes into the fish finder, and then on the other end, of course, you have your section, your parts that plug into your battery. But the Raymarine one comes with another plug, and I cannot exactly remember. I'll have to check the manual what this one is for, but you don't actually use it. So there's actually 2 cables that has to go back through the plug. So on this little plug unit, we're going to actually use all 3 of these holes to get these cables go back through. There we have it, the power cable and the transducer cables coming out to where the fish finder is. So the next thing we have to do is find the right seals for various diameter cables, because essentially these are going to go through like that. And then we have the cables coming through the plug. Now we'll just adjust those. You can just pull on those until the fish finder, to fit the back of the fish finder. So let me put the fish finder in, and then we can mount the cables. So what I'm going to use is the 1.5 inch big round ball. I'm going to fit it in here. I like to have my fish finder right about here on the, and I'm just going to tighten the ball. And then my fish finder itself, I've mounted it on the Scotty fish finder mount for big fish finders. I must say this one works really well. It keeps the fish finder nice and steady, and no problems with it. So highly recommend the product. So what I made myself was this foam block to fit my battery, and where I slide this in, there's this basically below my seat. There's two scupper holes here, and this foam block slides in between these two and wedges in there like that. And that's where my battery sits, right in there. And then all I do, of course, is plug the battery in. It's out of the way. This just slides in, and that is it. So there's my fish finder installed on the mount. Just like cable tied the cables together so it's nice and clean, and it's basically ready to be used. Here is the plug for lifting the transducer. If you would pull that, pull it up like that. Now your transducer is up into the hull, and release it, and the transducer will just drop back down for when you want to use it. And that is it. Very clean install with the Hobie through the hole plugs, and works really well. So that is it. I hope that gives you a general idea of how to do the Raymarine Element transducer installation on the Hobie retractable guard shield. So until next time, cheers.